Turn off your lights. Make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. The Thing I Didn't See by Ye Old Underpants Gnome. This is my first time trying to write something like this down. It happened a long time ago. There's no real action in this story. No gunfights, no monsters, no ghosts, none of the usual stuff. But this quiet, simple event terrified me more than anything I've ever been through. And I've been through some Final Destination level shit. I don't know if this will make sense to anyone, but it was real, and it changed me. I hope you find it interesting. The entire world was green, not the gentle, life-giving green of a forest, but a thick, oppressive, and sickly green that swallowed light and sound. The silence was the loudest thing down there, broken only by the rhythmic, mechanical rasp of the regulator cycling from my own breathing, the sound of alien machine in a world that did not belong. 35 feet of water pressure is on me, a constant, heavy reminder that I was an intruder, a slow, soft-shelled creature in a place of immense pressure. My world was a 3-foot bubble of murky visibility around my face mask. Beyond that was only the infinite, threatening green of open water that I couldn't pierce. My focus was on the machine I was tending to, the vast, black, silent curve of a submarine's hull. It was the only piece of solid ground in this vertical wilderness. I worked slowly, methodically, my hands sure and practiced on the wrench as I loosened the bolt of the lower ballast tank vent plate. My rational mind was in control, focused on task, the required task, the procedure. A small school of parrotfishes, huge and iridescent, drifting lazily in front of my mask, their powerful beaks scraping algae from the hull with a slow, crunching sound. They were unafraid. They had seen me before and didn't flinch when I waved at them. Their calm presence was kind of reassuring, a sign that I was just another part of the scenery. They were my guard dogs, my canaries in this dark green coal mine. I had the last bolt of the vent plate loose. I shifted my weight, tried off the plate, and was ready to pull the heavy plate free. And then it happened. It wasn't a sound, it was a pressure wave, a silent consciousness in the water that I felt in my bones. And with it, a flash of impossible speed in the corner of my vision. Not a shape, just a sudden, violent smear of battleship gray against the green, no more than a foot from my face, in the tiny 3-foot bubble of my visibility I had. But I didn't need to see it, because in the exact same instant, the parrotfish, the calm, fearless beast, exploded. They vanished. Not swam away, but ceased to be there, a frantic, desperate detonation of pure terror. And in that moment, the calm, the logical part of me in my mind died. The technician, the sailor, the thinking man, all of it was gone, vaporized by a single primal signal that screamed up from the oldest part of my brain, the part that knows, with absolute, unshakable certainty, what it feels like to be prey. My blood turned to ice water. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to flee, to kick for the distant, shimmering promise of the sun. But the logical part of my brain, in its dying breath, had left one single cold command in my mind. If I bolt, I die. The bends. The nitrogen in my blood will boil, a death more certain than the teeth I could not see. I flattened my body against the coating of the cold steel of the hull, trying to make myself part of it. My hand, clumsy and shaking, found the hilt of my dive knife. I drew it, the blade a pathetic, useless little silver of metal against the imagined monster in the green gloom. I was a man with a toothpick, waiting for a freight train. The terror was absolute. I was blind, helpless, and I knew, with a certainty that transcended sight, that I was being watched. That something ancient, powerful, and built for this world was circling me, just beyond the 3-foot wall of my vision, deciding if you were worth the effort. I began to rise, not with a kick, but with a slow, agonizing act of will, controlling my buoyancy, fighting every screaming instinct to flee and kick to the surface. Every foot of ascent was a lifeline. My head was on a swivel, my eyes straining, trying to pierce the suffocating green. I saw nothing. I heard nothing but the frantic, ragged sounds of my own breathing, a panicked animal hyperventilating in its trap. The pressure in my ears changed. The light shifted from a sickly green to a brighter, more hopeful gold. And then my head broke to the surface in the shallow slope of the stern. The sudden, shocking noise of the real world, the cry of a gull, the distant hum of a diesel engines, was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. I was alive. I was back and out of reach. I never saw what it was, but I know I was an intruder in the cathedral built for a god I was not meant to see. And for one long, terrible moment, it had considered me.
She thinks that flimsy piece of tape on her computer's webcam will keep me from watching her. It's funny how she forgets about the one on her phone.
The Man with the Wooden Leg by OK Faithlessness 9628. Hey guys, quick thing before we start. I'm a French guy posting this story. I did my best to translate this real story myself with a little help from Google Translate. Please excuse any mistakes. I'm going to fix any grammar problems or any mistakes I see as I narrate it, but I'll leave the true text on screen for you guys. My name is Noah, and I'm 24 now, but when this all happened, I was just 12. I live not far from Paris, but I love traveling since I was a kid. For 5 summers straight, from 2009 to 2013, my mom signed me up for summer camps every July. Those camps were amazing. I traveled all over France, camping, hiking mountains, doing caving and rope courses, so many fun activities since I was young and loved every minute of it. Then came 2013, which turned out to be the worst year of my life and the last time I went to camp. That summer, the camp was on Ile du Lion, an island in western France connected to the mainland by a big bridge. The island is known for being really hot in the summer, amazing local food, nice beaches, and especially a famous monument called Fort Bougnon, an old prison in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that once held criminals. The camp was set up in the middle of nature. Imagine a group of small buildings arranged in an L shape. On one side was the entrance, on the other side was just thick bushes leading into the forest. The buildings were divided between the kids' dorms, the laundry room, the dining hall, and the instructors' dorms. At that time of my life, I was pretty rebellious and didn't like to listen. Two of my friends, Malik and Enzo, came with me, so we were all set for a crazy time. Maybe not too crazy. Everything was fine during the first 6 days of camp, and we had so much fun. But on the 7th day, things started going wrong, mostly because of us. That night, we had a campfire game session, playing board games like Uno from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. After that, the instructors announced lights out, and everyone went to their rooms. Malik, Enzo, and I shared a room, so we brushed our teeth and went to bed. About 25 to 30 minutes later, the instructors turned off all the lights. Around midnight, I came up with a terrible idea. A night walk in the forest with my two friends. Even though we were only 12 or 13 years old. We opened our window, looked around quickly, and saw that none of the instructors were awake. They were all asleep, probably too tired after the day's activities. We quickly crossed the camp courtyard, sneaked past the buildings, and entered the bushes on the far side of the site. We walked about 10 to 15 minutes into the forest. While walking, I was joking around and trying to scare my friends with creepy stories. Suddenly, we arrived at the fence of an old abandoned house. The house looked really run down and creepy, like something out of a witch's story. Being young and dumb, we decided to at least go into the garden. To our surprise, the gate was open. So we stepped inside. As soon as we started walking in the garden, we heard a huge, loud scream coming from a man with a deep, scary voice. We were so scared that at first we couldn't even understand what he was yelling. Then the front door of the house under the porch opened and we saw a man running towards us. We panicked, nearly cried, and instantly reopened the gate behind us. We ran as fast as we could back towards the camp. We managed to get back and woke everyone up in the middle of the night. So stressed, scared, and panicked that I was crying a lot. The instructors obviously scolded us for being reckless and dangerous, but it was clear on our faces that we weren't making it up. We told them what happened and finally went back to our rooms. I couldn't sleep at all that night and kept replaying this scene in my head. One detail stuck with me thanks to the moonlight. The man limped and had a wooden leg. But even so, he ran really fast, and I don't know why, but I had a very bad feeling about the whole thing. I wish that had been the end of my story, but no. On the 9th day, the last day of camp, we were outside doing various activities when the instructor asked if we had our swimsuits ready because we were going to the pool. I said no and that I needed to go get mine for my room. So I ran alone to the dormitory about 10 meters away. I opened my door, then closed it behind me for some reason without turning on the light. Inside the room, since we had the shutters closed, it was almost completely dark, but some little holes let in a bit of moonlight. At that moment, about 5 meters from me, I saw a tall, human-like figure standing still. I couldn't see its face, just the silhouette. I didn't understand what was happening, but I was frozen and couldn't move. What felt like an eternity, probably just 5 or 6 seconds, I suddenly turned, opened the door, and ran outside screaming that someone was in my room. I ran crying towards the center of the camp where everyone was. An instructor immediately went with some colleagues to check my room, but it was empty. Suddenly, the instructor called everyone to come to my room because they found something terrifying. On the floor was a piece of paper with the words, "I will come back tonight," written on it. I literally froze and cried twice as much as before. That night, the instructor stayed in pairs outside every door so no one could enter any rooms. Thankfully, no one came back to my room that night. We left camp the next day, but because of those incidents, I never went back to camp after I was 13. It took me a long time to want to travel again with friends or family to places I didn't know. It wasn't until I was 19 that I dared to go on vacation again. When I told my mom about what happened, she told me I was incredibly stupid and brave at the time for my age, and that I did the right thing because whoever was in my room that night didn't mean well, especially with that note left behind. But honestly, going in that forest was so freaking stupid. I don't know why we went to that forest, to be honest. Even 12 years later, questions still haunt me. Who was that person in my room? Was it the same man who chased us in the forest? What did he want? And how did he find my room? These questions keep me awake many nights, and I've had a lot of nightmares. Like I said at the start, even if I mostly laugh about it now, sometimes I still get anxious over small things. So, to the man in the woods who chased us and then appeared in my room, let's not meet ever again.
I woke up annoyed at my cat for running around the apartment in the middle of the night after I heard him smash another plate. But then I heard soft purring coming from my pillow as my cat moved in his sleep. Creepy Teacher by MiniSomi09. So, to start off, this happened approximately half a month ago. I've had this one private teacher for me and my friends for 2 years. About 6 months ago, all my friends quit because the guy started charging extra, but me and this girl decided to stay anyway, which led me to staying after uni alone with him in a class for private lessons every Thursday. So this was, as I mentioned, halfway through June, right after the summer break, and the first Sunday I attended his class after a month. On that day, when I walked in, I realized I forgot my books, so I set my phone and stuff down on the desk and excused myself to go and borrow one from someone. Now, my phone doesn't have a password lock, but obviously I didn't quite expect him to go through it. When I got back, I saw him on my phone under the desk. His back faced the entrance so I could clearly see him transferring my nudes to his phone. And when I called out and asked him to give it back, he deleted his entire contact on the whole and handed it over like nothing had happened. Of course, I was too scared to confront him, so I got through the class anyway. Only when I got home did I realize he went through my gallery, my DMs, and my not safe for work folders. I tried to consistently skip class after that, but I couldn't because Mom would force me to attend. About 2 more classes after the incident passed as normal, except he knew that I found out the stuff he did and tried to take my phone to go through it again in case there were other pics. Of course, I didn't know what to do, so I said I don't have any more of those nudes. He asked me to go home and take some more for him, and asked explicit questions like if I would consider sucking him. I said no and left. On the way back, he kept calling me on my phone, yelling at me that I was a racist because I refused him service while I talked and sent pictures to white men online. He went through my DMs, like I said, and yes, I do. It's more of a preference, not racism. And I guess he was bitter about it because he called my mom and said I missed class. And so she made me go the next day because, of course, she doesn't know anything about whatever happened. I just prefer not to tell her. The next day when I went in, halfway through the class, he asked me to go get something from the next classroom, and when I did, he shut the door before I could leave, pressed me against it, and squeezed my chest and kissed me, even though I kept shoving him off. And I guess I froze for a while because he kept fingering until someone knocked on the door. I left right after that. The next day, he forced me some hush money, about $200, to not tell anyone about what he did. And since then, there hasn't been any more advances, but I still attend his class since my mom doesn't want to search for another tutor. I don't know if I should tell her that I rather quit than stay here for 2 whole years. I need to add a few quick side notes here. OP is 19, almost 20, so they're not underage, but that does not change how messed up this is. And OP, if you're listening, I hope you have told your mother and got the police involved. This man needs behind bars. And please put a lock on your phone of some kind. It's just an extra protection for you. If I see any comments about OP shouldn't have nudes on her phone, it will be deleted. We don't victim shame. They didn't do anything wrong. This tutor did. Okay, back to the stories.
I missed you. Holy fuck, I've missed you, he whispered against my ear. I didn't have the words to describe the fear I felt knowing my ex had once again found me, crawled into my bed, all without waking my family. Possible kidnapping attempt by Less Experienced 7223. I was debating whether or not to put this here because I usually don't post anything, but a friend of mine convinced me it perhaps could be helpful to others in a similar situation. The title is supposition, as I generally have no idea how to explain this. For context, a few months ago, I had driven to a gas station on a highway near where I lived because I had to deliver a package via a locker. The road is a smaller one, it's a two-way, and there's a gas station on each side. I parked at the one on the one side of the road I was driving on and then crossed on foot to go to the other, where the locker was. The road was fairly empty as it was close to midday on a Saturday, if I recall correctly. However, the place the locker was located in had shut down permanently, and I couldn't access it anymore, so I crossed again and started going back to my car. By the time I had done this, a truck belonging to a private postal company in my country had parked in the same gas station I did. Again, it wasn't a weekday, so the place was closed and there was no one else nearby. The driver got out of the truck and came towards me. He proceeded to ask me if we could connect the battery in his truck to the one in my car as it had stopped working. I immediately refused, 1, because I don't know the first thing about doing that, and 2, because the whole interaction just seemed off to me, and I generally felt uncomfortable giving a complete stranger access to my vehicle. I apologized and quickly got back to my car, which was luckily not close to him. I couldn't even get my key in the ignition before the truck had left, getting back onto the highway. Now again, I'm not a car expert, but even I know that if a battery is dead or very close to dying, there's no way it would start your vehicle back up again after being turned off, especially a truck. It would at least have taken him 4 or 5 tries to get it to turn on, if it did, which is unlikely in most cases. It didn't even register to me that he could have had some bad intentions until I was long out of there and heading home. I don't know if all the TV I watch is getting to me or what, but everyone I've told agrees with me that it was really weird and I did a good at not giving him the time of day. I do wonder if he could have just been in need of general help, but to be fair, I have no idea. Anyway, please, if you're ever alone on the road, do not interact with strangers who stop by, and do not get out of your car unless absolutely necessary.
I never believed the myth about cats sucking in your soul while you slept until I saw my Fluffy stomp over my sleeping son's mouth. "Mom, what's the matter?" Fluffy said.
Halloween by Laserflash5446. If you do not believe me, this truly did happen to me and my friends. It was about 7 in my friend's apartment building. Let's call this friend John. So, me, John, and my other friend that I'm going to call him Jason, we're going to go trick-or-treating from the bottom floor of John's apartment to the very top floor. On the first floor, we met a very creepy lady dressed as Miss Frizzle who claimed to know our teacher. She wanted to take pictures of us and even asked us to come inside. John, being very reasonable, talked us out of the situation and were able to continue trick-or-treating upstairs. As we continued, our joke was when anything scary would happen, it was Miss Frizzle sent a goblin after us. Anyway, we continued on the building's floors, got smaller and smaller until finally one giant floor came and Jason left to hoard his candy down at John's apartment. Then it was just me and John. We got to the last floor, which seemed to be under construction, which you can't see from the outside, and didn't get any candy, so we went to go down the stairs. Me and John both distinctly remember hearing giggling from a child coming from above us. There was no floor above us as he ran down the stairs, laughing. John swears to this day that he heard a low, grumbling voice and a dark figure. I saw none of these, but I was still freaked out.
When I first moved here, all my classmates told me creepy stories about a kid named Benny who was hiding in the woods. I thought it was just some legend or prank until I found a skull in a tree hollow, and now I wonder how they all knew he was here.
And with that, our time together is coming to an end. If you have a story you'd like me to narrate, whether true or fictional, there are 3 different ways to send it my way. All the links are down below. First, I want to do a couple apologizes and updates. I'm sorry that it's been mostly just compilations and no new stories as of late, but when I broke my ankle just before Christmas, it made everything I did very draining, and I got an actually pretty nasty cold at the same time. The good news is I don't need surgery, which is really lucky because I walked on it for a week broken. My muscles are still having some problems with pain and everything, so it does make everything I do quite a bit more draining. I do hope you enjoy the compilations. I did pick my favorite stories for the best of, so I hope you like those ones. Now, I'd like to thank the writers who let me read their stories this evening. Thank you guys so much for trusting me to bring your stories to life. Our first story was actually submitted by Ye Old Underwear Goblin. For a true story, it's the second one that's ever made me think that it was a fictional story while reading it at first. The green and just how clingy it was really captivating. Totally remind me why I don't like to swim in the ocean or lakes. You never know what's down there. I love swimming, but specifically pools because I can see what's below me. The one with the wooden leg, I know as a young kid, you're an idiot. You do stupid things like sneaking off of the woods because nothing bad can happen to you until something does. I completely remember that mindset. I'm happy that you got away from the creep in the cabin, and I hope that you enjoy your vacations. It seems like you're getting over the trauma, and I'm very happy about that. The creepy teacher, I did talk to OP. They said they were going to talk to their mom about being away from that teacher. I hope they never see them again. What a fucking creep. I'm just flabbergasted by what I read there. So I'm so sorry you had to go through that, OP. The one about the almost kidnapping, I'm happy they trusted their gut and didn't help the creep with the broken down car. I'm also happy they showed their cards real soon to make OP realize that they were completely right and not to misjudge themselves. And lastly, about the Halloween one. OP didn't give me the okay to narrate it till after Halloween, which is why it's here. I'm happy that you didn't trust the Miss Frizzle person and just went on with your way. The belief around Halloween and why we dress up like ghouls and everything is because supposedly the veil between the living and dead is the weakest during that time, which could explain why you saw weird things or your friends saw weird things, and who knows. Also, that time of year always seems to make everything a little more creepy anyways. Please remember to trust your gut, do whatever you can to get out of a situation, and never let someone take you to a second location. Your chances of survival are very low at that point. And if people around you act weird, bring attention to yourself. It can really help. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe and turn that pretty little bell to all notifications. And of course, leave me a comment. Put in VIP if you got this far, and tell me what kind of stories you like in the future, or what story was your favorite from this one. If you're on the podcast and are able to, please leave a review and a comment. If you're willing to help this podcast and channel grow, please share it with anyone who might enjoy it. It helps quite a bit. And if you're willing to, I do have Patreon and memberships where you get early access and a few other bonuses. If you'd like to do more of a one-time thing, I do have PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and Super Thanks. All the links are down below, including the ones to my socials. I know with how everything is, asking financial is quite a bit. I'm happy you guys are watching and listening. That always has and always will mean the world to me. I enjoy narrating, and this is a hobby for me. I don't plan to ever make this my full-time job. I just like to bring stories alive for you guys. And I'm also doing a little more collabs as well. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.